Dragons. They exist in pretty much every culture known to man. And although fire-breathing lizards aren't exactly the most realistic thing, the flying reptile part actually is. And in fact, in one point in Earth's history, huge flying reptiles took to the skies. And that's what we're going to be discussing today. We'll be looking at the largest pterosaurs to ever exist. For this, we'll be assigning them into 1 to 5 different groups, with us starting at the bottom with the smallest of these megapterosaurs, and then making our way to the top where we will find the largest of these real-life wyverns. And differently to how we categorised the other megas in the videos I did before, we're going to be using wingspan instead of weight, and that's because a lot of pterosaurs aren't exactly heavy, so putting them into weight classes in my opinion might be a bit underwhelming. And starting off, we have our 1-star pterosaurs. These guys are some of the largest animals to ever take to the skies. And to be classed into this tier, you have to have 2 different factors. The first one is obviously be a pterosaur, and the second one is have a wingspan of 5 to 6 meters. Which means starting off our tier, we have Inabatian. I think that's how you pronounce it, but I could be wrong because, pronunciation isn't exactly my strong suit, but we'll just say that for now. This pterosaur reached exactly 5 meters in length, from wingtip to wingtip. This rather small Asdarchid is one of the most complete pterosaurs we know from the Afro-Arabian region. And as well as its wingspan being rather huge at 5 meters, its other measurements weren't anything to scoff at, 3 meters from head to tail, and it being tall enough to tower over a human at 2.1 meters. Although this pterosaur does indeed give off very much murderer vibes, as long as you weren't a baby or a tiny mammal, you'd probably be alright, because if you didn't know, Asdarchids specialised in hunting small prey, so anything around the same size isn't really that worth hunting, when there's weaker, more plentiful prey in other areas. Next on the list we have Ornithocheirus. This European pterosaur first got put into the spotlight in Walking with Dinos. Although it wasn't sized up to the humongous standards of Liopleurodon at 100 meters, it was still vastly overestimated, with it having a 12 meter wingspan, which would have made it from wingtip to wingtip the same length as T-Rex. But after a decent amount of research, Ornithocheirus was scaled down to what we know it as today, and that would be a 5 meter wingspan and a weight of 20 kilos, which is indeed a rather large fall from grace. After Ornithocheirus, we now have Pterodactylus. This Brazilian pterosaur gives us very little information to work with. Like Ornithocheirus, we only know its wingspan and weight, which are 5.5 meters and 15 kilos respectively. As well as its size being different from the last 2 pterosaurs, its family tree was also different, with this pterosaur being part of the Anguharidae family tree, meaning it wasn't related to Hatzegopteryx or Quetzalcoatlus in the Asdarchid family tree, but instead it had a distant relation to Ornithocheirus and a closer relation to Tropiognathus, which is a large pterosaur we'll be seeing later. Next we have a pterosaur from an entirely different family tree, and that's Geosternbergia, or otherwise known as Pteranodon sternbergia. And if you thought the other guys were strange with their only 2 size estimates, this guy takes the cake with us only knowing its wingspan, which would have been around 6 meters in length. But other than that, the weight, height and length are still unknown as of now. But hopefully we'll get more information on the species as a whole, because in my opinion, this is one of the coolest pterosaurs we know of. Because 1, they have a huge sexual dimorphism, with females only having a 3 meter wingspan, opposed to the males having 6 meters, and as well the head crest reminds me of my actual favourite pterosaur, Nyctosaurus. Because come on, that head is so funky looking, how can you not love it? And now we have another pterosaur with, you guessed it, no size estimates besides its wingspan, but nonetheless Santodactylus is still very cool, with this pterosaur also having a 6 meter wingspan, which puts it at the same size as around 3 humans, or the same as 2 albatrosses' wingspans, which if you didn't know is the largest flying animal we have today. Moving along we have Elanqua. Typical of Asdarchids, this guy had a rather long neck, which meant it was pretty well adapted to hunting small animals like lizards and rodent-sized mammals. But although the exact wingspan size is still up for debate, the largest sizes do put it at 6 meters, which if it was correct would put it here making it the second largest 1-star pterosaur, in joint place with Santodactylus and Geosternbergia. And the largest would be Quetzalcoatlus lawsoni. This remarkable Asdarchid is sadly overshadowed by its larger cousin, but although it was nowhere near as large, it's still a very impressive hunter, with it probably feasting on small game like every other Asdarchid, and although this guy is smaller than its counterpart I mentioned earlier, this doesn't mean it's exactly tiny. With a 6 meter wingspan, a weight of 65 kilos and a height of 2.2 meters, if I ran into this pterosaur, I'd definitely be going the other way. And now that we've completed the 1-star tier, we can move up into the 2 stars, and these pterosaurs get a size increase, with them now having a wingspan of 6 to 7 meters, which isn't exactly a huge increase, but then again you have to remember there's not many megapterosaurs, so I can't make the tier differences too big really, otherwise they'll all just be in one big tier. And starting off at here, we have the most famous pterosaur of all time, and that's Pteranodon longiceptes, aka pterodactyl or pterodactyl, depending if you want to say the P. This reptile is the poster boy of the pterosaur lineage, with it often being the first thing you imagine when someone says pterosaur, or dinosaur for some reason. And with this guy having a 6.5 meter wingspan, he's rather impressive, albeit a little bit basic in my opinion. Moving on, we have one weird looking pterosaur, and that's Tapungaka. This Australian pterosaur had a 7 meter wingspan, but its height, length and weight, like many others, are still left up to be determined, and that's mainly because of the lacking fossils we have of this species. Like for example, you only have the front of its jaws, meaning although we know it's from the same clade as Pterodactylus, its exact role in the family tree is possibly due to change. Next on our list we have Copernicus, and I'm just going to say, although there's plenty of other larger pterosaurs in this list, it seems the genre of toothed pterosaurs seem to take up the majority of the medium-sized megapterosaurs. But now getting onto the actual reptile, Copernicus is distantly related to Tapungaka, and as well as it also sharing some blood, it also shares a size, with it being 7 meters from wing to wing. But other than that, just like its cousin, we don't know anything else about it. Height, weight and length are completely out the window. But now as moving into the 3-star tier, these pterosaurs again get a size increase, with them now being 7 to 9 meters in wingspan. And starting off at here, we have Tropignathus. This reptile is the largest of all toothed pterosaurs, and although it wasn't as large as the WWD Ornithocheirus at 12 meters, it's still very large, with it reaching 8.5 meters from one end to the other. And as well, at one point in time, Trop was actually the king of the skies, where it was uncontested for millions of years. But as time went on, sadly the lineage of toothed pterosaurs came to an end, and instead the toothless Asdarchids took their place as the king of the skies. And speaking of Asdarchids, next we have one that's gone through a lot of different change, and also one I can't say the name of properly, and that's Arenberginia. This, just like Ornithocheirus, has gone through a drastic size change, with it originally being estimated at 13 meters, which is obviously incorrect because it's in the 3-star tier, not the 5-star tier. Then after 13 meters it moved to 11, then to 10, then all the way to 7, moved slightly up to 8 meters, and then to where it is today at 9 meters. So although it has definitely changed a decent amount, it's still one of the largest pterosaurs we know of today, with it just being outside the top 5 we know of. And now starting with our top 5 largest pterosaurs, we have Thanatos Draken. This amazingly named pterosaur translates to Dragon of Death, which is edgy as hell but still very cool. This guy's wingspan is also 9 meters like the pterosaur we mentioned earlier, but because of the weight estimate of 100 kilos, I decided to rank it higher, which means this guy is the 5th largest pterosaur in history, and also it's the largest pterosaur in all of South America, dethroning Tropignathus. And with that, our 3-star tier is wrapped up, and now we can move on to our 4-star tier, of which we only have 2 species, which are both 10 meters, so the tier ranges from 10 meters to 10 meters. And first we actually have an undescribed specimen from Mongolia, and this is from the Nemegep Formation, aka the one with Tarbosaurus, Deinocheirus and Therizino. And this species is by far one of the most mysterious pterosaurs to ever exist, with us knowing literally nothing about it other than it's definitely a pterosaur and it possibly reached 10 meters. But like the others, the height, the weight and the length are still up for debate. But going even further, we don't even know what family this pterosaur belongs to. So for all we know, this could be a humongous toothed pterosaur, or even a huge pteranodon. But in my opinion, which doesn't really hold much validity, I'm pretty sure this guy is going to be an Asdarchid. Considering this formation is from 70 million years ago, and that's when the toothless pterosaurs were having their reign in the skies, it's quite likely that it's just an Asdarchid. And as well, to support this theory, Asdarchids were also in Asia, like Asdarco and Ambrogania, so this pterosaur could definitely present the largest Asian Asdarchid. Then next we have our largest pterosaur before we move on to the top 2, aka the 5-star pterosaurs, and here we have Cryodraken. This dragon of the north reached 10 meters as well, which makes it the largest pterosaur known in Canada, and the 2nd largest known in North America. And the only reason I decided to place this above the undescribed Mongolian one is because it's undescribed, and it just felt more right putting Cryodraken above it. And within its home with the Dinosaur Park formation, Cryo would have been one of the top dogs, with it only rarely being disputed by Gorgosaurus and Albertosaurus. But for any unfortunate baby dinosaur, this pterosaur would have been their worst nightmare, because Cryo hunted on the ground, and used its 2-meter beak to pierce through these dinosaurs like Vlad the Impaler. And even larger dinosaurs wouldn't be that much safer, considering this creature's huge size gave it a bonus in range, meaning it could strike weak points like the throat and eyes from a safe distance. But now with us moving along from that slightly disturbing reptile that is Cryodraken, we move on to our final tier, and that's the 5-star megapterosaurs. These guys reach sizes of above 10 meters. And starting off this tier we have one of the most famous pterosaurs, and definitely the most famous as Darkid, and that's Quetzalcoatlus northropi. This reptile is named after the Mexican god Quetzalcoatl, which I believe means feathered serpent, which is a very fitting name for this reptile. This beast reached 11 meters in wingspan and 150 kilos in weight. And as well, to make it even more terrifying for any baby dinosaurs, this Darkid was as tall as a giraffe at 4 meters at the shoulder. But then again, what do you expect? It is from Hell Creek at the end of the day, and everything from there seems to be Titan sized for some reason. And now we move on to our largest megapterosaur to ever exist, and also the largest animal to ever fly, and that's Jfstudiospaleoart. This animal was genuine nightmare fuel to anything that saw it. For instance, there was an island separated from the mainland of Europe, called Hattig Island. And here, because of island dwarfism, a lot of species got smaller, so the sauropods and hadrosaurs which inhabited the island were now pretty much cow-sized reptiles. And because Jfstudiospaleoart could fly, it could travel from island to island picking off these small dinosaurs. And as well, because of these dinosaurs having no natural predators, when Hatch showed up, there was really no hope for survival. And to make things even worse, Hatch was huge, at 5 meters in height, a weight of 250 kilos, and from wing to wing it was 12 meters, making it the same size as T-Rex in wingspan. And as well, although it might be an obvious thing to say, it could fly, meaning all a small dinosaur is going to see before death would be a shadow blocking out the sun, and then this flying serpent would use its 2.5 meter beak to swallow any dinosaur whole. So this was my megapterosaur list. Like always, it will change in the future, because that's how paleontology works, but hopefully when it does we'll get a couple more members, the Mongolian one might have a name, and Jfstudiospaleoart will finally be valid. Like always, thanks for watching, it means quite a lot to me. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and possibly even subscribe. Or if you're feeling really generous, check out the Patreon to see some behind the scenes activity. And as well, for my next video, make sure to vote in my community tab, because I've finished all the largest dinosaurs, we're going to work out what to do next. But other than that, have a nice rest of your day, and bye bye.